And the show is all yours.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 11 a.m. edition of Farpoint. And this morning we are discussing Discovered During Lockdown, what TV and movie gems we have discovered during the pandemic. And we will start with introductions. I'm Heather E. Hutsell. I'm a novelist, short story authoress, and poet. And with me today is my co-panelist, JL Gribble.
Hi, I'm JL, or you can call me Hannah, either is fine. I am a novelist and editor. I primarily write speculative fiction. My book series is The Steel Empires. The first one is Steel Victory, which is urban fantasy, alternate history. And pretty much all I do is read and watch Netflix like it's my job. So I have lots of stuff to talk about that I have found in the past year. Since Farpoint last year was my last in-person convention, so this has been our life for definitely a year for me, and I've found some cool stuff that I can't wait to share with everyone.
Great. Just some quick housekeeping. We do have a Q&A option, so if you have any questions that you would like us to answer, please use that as opposed to the chat, so it's a little harder to keep up with. And I guess we'll get started. So I'm just going to throw it out there that I am not a big TV watcher, at least not before the pandemic. And then that happened, and that has all changed because what else am I going to do? So my list of things that I have watched is so long. I tried to write them all down, and I just can't. It's been a really crazy, interesting experience, especially for someone who writes. So I'm just going to start us off right off the bat. What are your top 5 favorite shows and films that you came across in the past year?
I kind of jokingly said in my application where you fill out why you should be on this panel that I'm totally going to talk about the Old Guard the entire time, which I promise I won't, but if you would ever like to talk about the Old Guard, I am here for it. That's been my kind of number one. It's a movie on Netflix that was released last July, and I went down a huge rabbit hole of it, and I'm low-key obsessed. Other than that, my spouse and I have been fans of The Expanse since the beginning, but I know a lot of other people have come across it since the pandemic started. It's a TV and book series and the TV series is on Amazon. The book series are written by James S.A. Corey. That's pretty much the best sci-fi on TV, I think. Definitely enjoyed Picard. Discovery's kind of the continuing adventures of Picard when it came out last spring. It was a great departure from, yes, David, I see you mocking me in chat about the Old Guard. David's one of my best friends, so he knows the rabbit hole I've gone down through the Old Guard. But yeah, Picard was amazing. And ironically, I've actually been reading more as opposed to watching TV during this pandemic. But in terms of TV that I really enjoyed, it's not speculative fiction, but I really enjoyed The Queen's Gambit, which I watched because everybody else was watching it, so why not? And I guess is the final thing. It's weird, it's quirky, but I kind of liked Lower Decks, which was the Star Trek animated show.
Any movies that stood out for you?
I'm not generally a movie person. It's Old Guard being a weird exception. We did watch Wonder Woman 1984 on Christmas, which I'm kind of glad that I did not pay extra money to see that. As much as I do love the character and love Gal Gadot. I guess in terms of movies, I used to be a movie reviewer for a blog, and so it's so ingrained in my head that for movies, I go to the theater. So I haven't really sought out much other than, trying to keep up with some of the Netflix originals.
Okay. For me, I would say as far as TV shows, all different ones. I haven't seen any of the ones that you mentioned, so now I'm going to have a whole new list. But the ones that I really enjoyed were Schitt's Creek was hilarious and exactly what I needed at the time. I finally caught up on Boardwalk Empire, which apparently is several years old already. And speaking of old shows, White Collar, I really found interesting. It was just so much fun the whole time, even though a lot of the plot line or the storylines felt a little repetitive. It was still always fresh. And I think that Matt Bomer really helped to keep it going. Let's see. So that was 1, 2, 3. Upload was really cute. That was Prime Original. And it just, I wasn't sure what to expect with it because it was kind of sci-fi, but it was actually a very sweet story. And I really hope that they do another season because you talk about cliffhangers. That one just like, it was just, nobody should have to endure that. It was just crazy, but excellent show. It was very well done. And then a toss up between, I'm going to have to do 6 here. Lucifer. I'm not done watching it, but again, kind of repetitive storylines, but hilarious. Like those one-liner bombs that Tom Ellis drops throughout every episode, just, they were great, really great. And I will throw one more in there. I finally discovered Grimm, and I just finished watching all 6 seasons, I would say about a week ago, and started rewatching it. So
the only ones of those that I've seen, I love White Collar. And if you're looking for something sort of white collar-ish to also discover during lockdown, Leverage is back online, which is an amazing TV show, found family show that is basically a heist every episode. And the only other one of those I've seen is Lucifer, though I have not seen the last season. But a lot of people have told me to watch Grimm, so that should probably make it onto my list at some point.
it was a little slow in the beginning for me. Like, I'm not sure what it was about it, but it just wasn't grabbing me. But because I'm a really big fan of fairy tales and that kind of story writing, I stuck with it, and it did get better and better. And I realized like around season 5, whoa, I really missed a lot. And that's part of the reason why I'm rewatching it. And, as each episode goes by, I'm like, oh, now I get it. I totally missed that the first time around. So yes, definitely go for that one.
So even though I've been doing a lot of reading, my spouse has been kind of catching up on stuff that he missed that started during the 90s, which has been entertaining to me. One of my big passions is Stargate SG-1 and Stargate Atlantis, and he recently started watching season 1 of Stargate SG-1, which is hilarious because one of the reasons that I think that show has held up so well is because the Air Force uniform, the blues, have not changed since the 90s. But it's really cool to like start from the beginning and rewatch it, considering everything that I know now. And he asked me all these funny questions, and it's great. And then he also started watching Babylon 5, which has also been a trip.
Awesome. So is there anything that you watched that you were just kind of about? Like, I don't understand the hype. Or just kind of like was too dry?
I did finally start trying to watch Parks and Rec, which I know a lot of people really enjoy. and I couldn't get through the first season. I couldn't even get through the first few episodes. So that's kind of a bummer. I know that I'll probably try that again at some point, but because I do really like the mockumentary style storytelling, but perhaps I need to start that at a later season.
I think for me, and this is really going to explode some brains, but Stranger Things. I watched everything that's been put out so far, but it just really never at any point grabbed me as this is super excellent. And the other one, The Mandalorian. Sorry. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I watched it on a high def television and it just didn't look right. It was so distracting that I couldn't get into any of it. And it's kind of a shame. Maybe I'll go back and check that one out again, but I just can't. Yeah, and Baby Yoda's adorable, but it wasn't enough to hold me through. So, anything you watched that was surprisingly good? Like you weren't expecting it to be as good as it was?
Well, like I saw the trailer for The Old Guard on Netflix and I was like, oh cool, this is right up my alley. It's like contemporary fantasy. Highlander was kind of my intro to sci-fi fantasy fandom. So I was like, okay, Immortals, this is cool. People with swords. And then just everything about that movie kind of just hit all of my sweet spot buttons in terms of found family and canonical queer characters and women being badass, but not, as part of a love story. Swords, you can't go wrong with swords. And I've watched it, God, about a dozen times since then. I keep introducing it to new people. What's really funny is I keep telling people to watch it and they're like, oh, I already have so many shows to watch. I'm like, no, it's 2 hours. You can invest 2 hours into something. Ironically, it is based on a graphic novel, which I have read, and I don't like the graphic novel as much as the movie. But even though I didn't like it as much, the author of the graphic novel, Greg Rucka, who is also a pretty big name in sci-fi writing, he did write the screenplay. And I think the influence of the director, Gina Prince Bythewood, influenced some pretty amazing changes that they implemented in the screenplay versus the graphic novel. So highly recommend it. It's pretty awesome. It is so niche that there's not really any swag out there. There's no official swag other than some stuff that people have made on Etsy. And even though my husband loved to make fun of how much I obsess over it, he and some of his coworkers designed the axe that Charlize Theron's character uses as a weapon, and they 3D printed it for me for my birthday. So I know I have, and when I shared a picture of this on Twitter, the director liked it. So that's kind of my claim to fame moment for The Old Guard so far.
Awesome. For me, the two surprisingly good ones, one was The Babysitter, the movie, and I love dark comedy. I really wanted to be blown away by the comedy in Ready or Not, and it was actually a lot darker and less funny than I was hoping it would be. So The Babysitter totally made up for that. It was everything I thought that Ready or Not should be. Just absolutely hysterical from beginning to end in a lot of wrong ways, but it was just really funny. And God, the list is just so long. Again, the other one, Upload, I was pleasantly surprised by how good that one was. And I think I saw a comment, someone said that they needed to delve a little deeper into that one. And I agree. I think they can probably do a lot more with it if they go ahead with a second season.
I'll definitely have to add Upload to my list. Some people are definitely mentioning great stuff in the chat. Loved Westworld. I really want to watch The Great on Hulu. And then I did binge Madam Secretary last spring on the recommendation of my boss. And I don't want to give away any spoilers, but once she makes the transition from being the Secretary of State to another position, I lost all interest in the show because it was no longer about like international political intrigue. It became a lot more like almost every other political show. And I know that a lot of people really love Designated Survivor. And again, that one was, you know, once I started in the second season, just kind of fell out of love with it. But I know a lot of people are really into it.
I see someone mentioned Resident Alien, and I don't have the Sci-Fi Channel. I'm limited to Prime and Netflix right now, but I have heard really great things about that one and can't wait to see it. Let's see what else came up. Death of Stalin, that was one that I watched because it came up as a dark comedy. It was a little more dark than comedy, but it was interesting. If you liked that and you want to see another one that's kind of along the same vein, not subject-wise, but delivery-wise, A Serious Man with Michael Stuhlbarg is good. The Coen brothers did that, if that tells you anything. Let's see what else is mentioned in here. Nothing that I have seen.
In the Q&A, someone says, have you seen The Good Place? I am not caught up on the last season, but yes, The Good Place is definitely something I would recommend to anybody. Have you seen The Good Place, Heather?
I haven't, so tell me about that one.
So The Good Place is Kristen. It's not Kristen Stewart. I don't know why I want to say Kristen Stewart. Kristen Bell, that's who it is. She basically wakes up and she's informed that she's died, but don't worry because she's in the good place. And she's there with a couple other people who have also died, and it quickly devolves from there. And it's the best comedy about philosophy that you will ever watch.
And where's that one?
That one is, I think it's on Netflix now.
Okay.
It's in, yes, thanks, David. It's on Netflix.
Great.
And then any web series that you've been watching. No, when I'm online, I'm generally, ironically, best decision I made was last February. I decided to start playing World of Warcraft again. And that's entertained me quite a bit during this pandemic when I can't leave my house. So that's mostly what I do online.
Yeah, I'm caught up in Grimm again right now. There's nothing else. Like I have watch lists on both Netflix and Prime, but I'm stuck on that right now. So have you noticed any of the things that you've been watching influencing any of your writing over the past year?
I'm one of those writers that actually ended up not being as productive as I would like during the pandemic. I've started a book, and it used to be, because I've been releasing about a book a year in my fantasy series, I could be writing a book and editing another one at the same time. And I can't do it. So I'm currently editing the book that's going to come out this summer, but I haven't really been writing as much as I'd like, except for the fact that last fall I started writing fanfic again for the first time in 10 years because I started writing old guard fanfic.
Hey, that's something.
And that was actually a lot of fun because it did jumpstart starting the last book in my series, because it reminded me that I am capable of sitting down and cranking out 2,000 to 3,000 words just for the fun of it. And some of the fun things about fanfic is that it is a completely different type of storytelling that you can do. So yeah, that was fun.
I am also one of the unfortunate authors who was not very productive last year. I didn't actually start doing much. Well, let me back up. I finished watching Boardwalk Empire right before everything started shutting down and got on a big 1920s, 30s themed kick for stories and cranked out about 7 of them, short ones. And then the pandemic happened and I did absolutely nothing for months. And then finally started picking up again about halfway through December. I'm doing little 1-page microfiction stories because I figure I can sit down and write 300 to 500 words and that will have to be enough. And those are all over the map. There's folk tales, there's fairy tales, there's mystery, there's you name it. There's all kinds of stuff in that. And it's going to be 1 story a day for a year. So
That's amazing.
it's a lot of fun. I will say, being stuck in my apartment all the time and having my interactions be limited to things like this or work meetings or the cashier when I go grocery shopping every 2 weeks, it's really hard to be mentally stimulated to write short stories. There's just not enough going on, so it's a little rough. But yeah, I think it will start to pick back up. This will be a better year for that.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Some of the other Q&As are, as a World of Warcraft fan, have you checked out Mythic Quest? I have not. I have heard about it and I should watch that. Thank you though for reminding me about Apple TV. If you do have Apple TV, another amazing show that people should check out is called For All Mankind, which is the premise of that. As an alternate history fan, I really enjoyed it. And as a fan of just the space program and the space race in general, the premise of that show is, what if Russia had put a man on the moon before the US did, and how would that have changed the space race? And it actually ends up becoming a really amazing feminist show, because one of the things that the US promptly does is, well, okay, we're going to put a woman on the moon before Russia does. And so it becomes a lot less a bunch of white men in a room than actual space race history was. So that's definitely something people should check out.
What's that one called?
For All Mankind, which is on Apple TV.
Which I don't have, but it's okay.
Yes, we are not here to judge how people acquire the things that they watch. We are just here to recommend things.
Well, I've noticed that eventually things do travel over to other streaming sources, so there's hope. I was just talking to some friends the other day about just, like 10 years ago, we would have all been lumped into only a handful of categories as far as fans. Like, you'd have Star Trek fans, you'd have Star Wars fans, you'd have the Firefly fans, and now it's like there's so much out there. There's so many shows and so many movies and so many different series and things based on comic book characters. It's like, I think they described it as the Tower of Babel, the Tower of Geeks. We've just exploded into all of these different areas. It's hard to fit into any single one anymore. So.
Yeah, and it's almost, I kind of joke that it's, as a speculative fiction writer and editor, and getting invited to conventions to do panels, that watching stuff that is geek related is almost part of my job. But it does get to a point where it's almost too much. And I was watching the Marvel show that was on FX, the kind of weird X-Men spinoff that I am blanking on. Somebody help me out here in the chat. And I watched, yes, Legion. Thank you, Jonathan. And I watched the first season and I was like, okay, this is different. And then I started the second season and realized I just didn't care. And I kind of had to give myself permission to not watch all of the things.
There's just not enough time. There just isn't. I have a friend who is a really big TV series connoisseur. And even he said, he spends most of his day watching stuff. And even he has realized that he will never catch up at this point. You just have to pick what you want and go for it.
Like I'm a big fan of Supernatural. I started watching it, I think, in season 6. Me and my best friends like jokingly refer to each other as characters' names, and even though it's finally finished, it's almost like I don't want it to be finished, so I still haven't even finished the last season of that.
I've come across that a couple times with shows when I am enjoying it so much, like White Collar. I loved it so much that I put off watching the last several episodes for a couple weeks because I didn't want it to come to an end. And knowing that it was, it's already been done and finished for 4 years now, 6 years, I knew there wasn't going to be any more. Once it was over, it was over. And it was heartbreaking to have that happen. And
someone mentioned Russian Doll in the Q&A, and I watched the first episodes of that and I really enjoyed it, and then I accidentally got spoiled for it on the internet, so now I haven't finished it because I know what's coming and I almost don't want it to like happen in real life.
Right. Yeah, that's one of the dangers of social media. Let's see.
Batwoman. I have been trying to watch a lot of the Arrowverse shows. I'm about a season behind on most of them. I'm most of the way through season 1 of Batwoman, but I haven't started season 2, so I can't comment on the change in actress. But it's on the list, like everything else is on the list. So I do look forward to finishing that when I get around to it. I'm lucky that for my day job is very feast and famine to begin with. And then some of the stuff that I do, it's very easy to do it while watching TV. So that helps knock down the very long list.
I wish I could say the same.
Yeah, I recognize that I'm very fortunate in that regard.
Did you have any questions?
I'm going through the Q&A. Noticing a TARDIS in the background. Were you tempted to rewatch all of Doctor Who? No, I have not rewatched all of Doctor Who, and I am the worst Doctor Who fan ever because I have not seen more than the first episode with the 13th Doctor. Because it's one of those shows that I want to watch with my spouse, but by the time we sit down to watch anything together, it's really hard to, other than shows like the new Star Wars and Marvel stuff on Disney Plus and shows like The Expanse. It's really hard to get both of us in the mood to watch the same thing at the same time. So we have not watched all of Doctor Who.
I haven't seen any Doctor Who since the 10th Doctor, I'm ashamed to say.
The 10th Doctor is my favorite, so you're good. You've seen the good stuff.
Mine too.
Let's see. Jonathan also asked, IO9 in their 2021 TV preview listed 109 programs with no episodes premiering sometime this year that should be considered in the SF fantasy horror anime genre, and the list did not include any Star Trek. I'm not sure I really understand the question, considering we got the new season of Discovery, we got Lower Decks, we got Picard. And I do recognize that these are harder to watch because they are on streaming services that require extra money that not everyone has access to. I think we're actually like in a almost boom time for new Star Trek. I'm really excited that they announced new episodes of almost old Star Trek with the new actors cast as Captain Pike and Spock and Number One. Okay, Jonathan says, yeah, we can never catch up and watch everything. Yep, that's true. And then David wants me to talk more about Lower Decks. Lower Decks was kind of a weird show. It didn't really know what it wanted to be. Keith DeCandido does a great wrap up of every episode on Tor.com, which I highly recommend everyone read because my opinions pretty much mostly align with his. There's some great gems, and there's some just overall weirdness, but it's pretty cool that it's animated Star Trek, which allows it to do some stuff with especially aliens and other things that are more difficult to do with live action TV. Soul on Disney Plus. Oh my God, I can't believe I forgot Soul. Soul was amazing and made me cry, and it's the typical Pixar movie in that regard. But it was beautiful and kind of weird, and I really enjoyed it. And there's stuff with a cat. It's hard to go wrong with stuff with a cat for me to not like it. Did you see Soul, Heather?
I haven't. I don't have Disney Plus, so
Okay, that makes sense.
I'm missing out.
And then WandaVision, I'm a huge Marvel fangirl, so yeah, I've definitely been watching WandaVision. I know a lot of people had trouble getting through the first few episodes. I think it's one of those shows where you have to get to episode 4 for things to start making sense. You know, that's a whole other panel about whether they should have introduced more about what was going on earlier in the show, but I've been enjoying it so far. But I'm super excited for the Falcon and Winter Soldier since those trailers started getting released. So yeah, I'll definitely be keeping up on all the Marvel stuff on Disney Plus.
I'll say, as someone who hasn't seen WandaVision, it's been really interesting to watch the posts about it. Like, so far, nobody has given any spoilers about it, which is really great. But just watching reactions.
We don't know what's going on either.
But just watching the reactions, you know, you can tell when people have all hit a certain point in an episode or a certain episode and something really crazy has happened. And, you know, eventually I want to see this because I like the idea, the concept of how they've filmed it. But yeah, it's kind of neat to watch it unfold. I think similar things went on when Mandalorian came out before I had seen it. So it's an interesting perspective from an outsider to watch what you're all going through.
That you can watch multiple ways. Like, you can watch it as a Marvel show, but you can also watch it as kind of a commentary on the evolution of television over the last 70 years, which has also been kind of entertaining, especially because we started with almost like a I Love Lucy sort of black and white thing, and the most recent episode was more of they take storytelling elements that are used in shows like Modern Family, and even the opening credits change as the show goes on. So
that's interesting. Let's see.
Who was WandaVision aimed at? So I think the Marvel shows on Disney Plus are probably definitely aimed at people who have already seen all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You kind of get to a point with the MCU where it's more difficult to create something for people coming in brand new. I will say that as somebody who is not a comics reader whatsoever, it's still entirely accessible and enjoyable. Obviously, I know that they're referring to lots of comic stuff, and I watch YouTube wrap-ups that talk about Easter eggs and stuff. And so I know that there is a lot of background that I might be missing as not a comic reader, but if you're a fan of just the movies, it's still totally enjoyable and fun.
Is there anything that you have on your list that you're still dying to see? Like you can't wait to get to it, or people keep telling you about it and you're like, yeah, I know I need to see this. I'm going to, I just haven't gotten into the mood for it. Anything like that on your radar?
Well, I've been super excited to watch the new Dune movie since it was announced. And on the one hand, I'm really bummed that the release date got pushed back. But on the other, like, I do feel for all the creators who create these movies that are intended to be seen on the big screen, especially the ones that put in the work to make it kind of an IMAX sort of compatible movie like the new Dune is, and then to have their production companies turn around and say, we're going to release it on a streaming service. So I'm still just really, really excited about Dune. I mean, even to the point that when we thought it was going to be released on time, my spouse and I were talking about like what way we could watch it in a theater in like the safest way possible. So yeah, I'm really excited for that. The funny part about that is because we are waiting for it, we've watched the movie from the 80s. My husband ordered a DVD copy, a used DVD copy of the sci-fi miniseries of Dune and Children of Dune, and we've watched those. So we do a lot of Dune all the time, and yeah, we're excited for that.
Awesome. One that people keep pushing me toward, and it's been so frequent now that there's a part of me that's afraid to watch it because I'm afraid I'm going to be disappointed now, is Enola Holmes.
Oh, okay. It was so cute.
I keep hearing that, and Heather, you'll love it, because I do costuming also a lot in the Victorian era, so maybe part of my fear comes from I'm going to be picking the costuming apart, and that's not accurate, and I don't want to do that. But yeah, it's been played up so much that I'm afraid I'm going to watch it and be like, oh, but it's not that great. Hopefully I'll be wrong.
That's two things that one I did watch and one I still haven't. Of course, everyone's told me to watch Schitt's Creek, and and so many people have talked about it and told me to watch it that I'm almost being like hipster about it now, and I don't want to watch it because everybody else has already watched it. But one thing I did end up watching, even though it's not really in my wheelhouse, was I did watch Bridgerton, and I'm not into costuming, but I know enough about the era to be dangerous. And so the fact that the show opens in the Regency with them putting on corsets kind of turned me off. But people kept talking about it and I wanted to contribute to the conversation. So I did actually finish Bridgerton, and it was cute, I guess. I'm not in a rush to go read the books. Even though I do enjoy a good Regency romance novel.
Nice. I will tell you, the nice thing about Schitt's Creek is the episodes are really short. So you can burn through a whole bunch of them in one sitting, or you can just watch, the first 2 or 3 and then decide if you don't like it, then fine. I recommend you watch at least the first 5.
Okay.
Just to really get into it. But like I said, they're really short, so you're not going to lose a lot of time. And I just saw a comment here. Where did it go? From Elizabeth Gorman about frockflix.com. I have not seen any of that, but I will definitely check it out because I like when things happen in a funny way.
And I like in this other comment from David saying, Enola Holmes was wonderful and I'm sad that it wasn't a series. So yeah, like it is only a 2-hour movie. So I do recommend that you watch it. Because that's funny because that's always the excuse I give to people to watch Old Guard because it's only 2 hours of their time.
I didn't realize that it was a movie. I was under the impression that it was a series. So
Enola Holmes or the Old Guard? Yeah. I think they want to make Enola Holmes into a series, but they made it just a single movie. And it was good.
There are rumors that there will be a follow-up. I don't know what format it's going to come in, but there was some controversy because Sherlock Holmes was portrayed as a character who actually had emotions other than just being a grouchy, stodgy jerk.
But you know what? It's Henry Cavill, so we're going to say
right?
that's fine.
Right, right. But I guess money has won over and there was a settlement or something. So there's possibly.
Yeah, because there were issues with the Conan Doyle estate about it. I do remember
Right.
that now.
Right. But yeah, so we have that to look forward to.
I'm not going to complain about more Henry Cavill, especially because I'm bummed that season 2 of The Witcher got delayed because of the pandemic.
That's another one that people have highly recommended I see, and I haven't seen it yet. And I don't know why. I mean, obviously the view is very positive. Um, uh, so yeah, maybe I'll eventually get to that one. I think maybe in a way I might be afraid that I'm going to get that song stuck in my head that everybody kept talking about. That's no reason not to watch a show, but I do think about that every time the name of it comes up. So
If it makes you feel better, I watched a great interview with the actor who plays the bard, and he even said that he would find himself like just in his apartment puttering around, and he would even start singing the song. So
oh boy. So what's the advice on that? Just to mute it when it comes on, or
embrace it.
embrace it?
One of
Okay.
the things, I finally signed up for Spotify during the pandemic, and one of the playlists that I found was basically just all soundtracks. And then, so it was, all these great orchestral scores from all these different things, some familiar and some not. And then Toss a Coin to Your Witcher came on, and I found that I wasn't even mad about it. So
Okay, well, there's that.
see. Oh, another thing, Dark, which is another series on Netflix. It's 3 seasons. It's already done. It's a full story arc. That I definitely recommend people who are looking for something kind of slightly dark, kind of weird. Can't really say a lot about it without spoiling the premise of what it's about. It is German. I recommend watching it with subtitles, but people should do what they prefer. So that's definitely something that I know a lot of people have discovered in the past year, now that it's out and done. Because I know some people don't want to invest in something that they're then going to have to wait a year for the next part of the story to come out.
Someone described that to me as having a Stranger Things vibe. I haven't watched it yet, but it's on my list.
I like it a lot better than Stranger Things. It doesn't rely so much on the adorable kid gimmick that Stranger Things does.
Did you see Lock and Key?
I did. I could take it or leave it. I've never read the graphic novel. Again, it was interesting, but it relied on the cute kid gimmick.
Right. I thought it was interesting also, surprisingly dark. I wasn't expecting it to go some of the places that it did, which is not a bad thing. It kind of reminded me of Grimm's fairy tales in that respect, but yeah, supposedly there's going to be a second season of that also. Trying to think of what else I had on my watch list. Umbrella Academy. Watched all of that.
Loved season 1, still haven't watched season 2. It's like, and it's one of those ones that I don't really have an excuse not to. I just haven't done it yet.
I liked season 2 and almost better than the first one, I think. It's been a while since I watched it, but it goes some interesting places and there's some pretty great character development in that. So yeah, I liked that one. One that I went back to, like I hadn't seen it when it first came out and I started watching it around summertime, was Dead Like Me.
Oh,
I don't know how I missed that one, but
years ago.
yeah, but I thought it was cute. I mean, it had some very heartfelt moments and I don't know what I had thought I was going to see before that, but it was cute. I had a second watching of The In-Betweeners. If you like British teenage boy raunchy humor, there you go. The In-Betweeners is pretty good.
One thing that I did end up watching and then making other people watch so that I could watch it again is I did watch Hamilton on Disney Plus on 4th of July weekend when it came out. I'd never heard any of the songs. I knew people have been obsessed with it for years, but I didn't want to like listen to the music in isolation without also seeing the full production. So I'm really glad that we got the opportunity to do that because, you know, like anything else, it's not perfect, but I really enjoyed it for what it is. And the music's catchy. And did I end up writing an Old Guard fanfic that referenced Hamilton? Yes, I did, because that was my brain for all of August was Hamilton and the Old Guard.
I haven't seen it, but I do have it. So eventually I'll get there. We were given our 10-minute notice and I'm not sure when that popped up, but we're coming down to the end here. If anybody has any last questions, they're dying to ask. Or comments.
Let's see, Lost in Space on Netflix. Again, watched the first season, haven't watched the second season. So I should probably, I enjoyed the first season. So I should probably catch up on that. And then let's see, The Travelers on Netflix. Again, I've seen the first season. I haven't watched the second season. Are we seeing a theme here? And then Raising Dion, which is on Netflix, which should have been like perfect for me because it's contemporary superhero storytelling featuring characters of color, and Michael B. Jordan is in it, who I'm madly in love with. But for some reason, I couldn't get past the first few episodes. That's definitely something I need to give another shot. So I think this goes back to our overarching theme of there's so much out there that we have to give ourselves permission to not feel guilty for not watching everything.
Absolutely, yeah.
So should we tell people where they can find us if they want to keep talking about any of this?
Sure.
Again, I'm JL Gribble. You can find my blog and all the info about my books at jlgribble.com. And I'm also on Twitter and Instagram as Hannah Edits. And I would love to talk to everybody about how amazing the Old Guard is all the time so that my husband and my best friends can get a break from it.
Awesome. And I'm Heather E. Hutsell. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And right now I'm putting up little teaser excerpts from the 366 stories that I'm working on right now to try and drum up some interest on this weird project. And I guess we're going to be in Salon F if you want to continue this discussion.
Okay, thank you all for coming on a Sunday morning, and we'll see you later, hopefully next year in real life. Bye.
Bye.
And splash screen is up. It looked like it went very well.
Yeah, it did. Thank you. Thanks for your help.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to go and head over to the Salon F.
Okay.
So, have a good
Yep.
one.
You too. Bye-bye. Aha.
Now I see what you mean about the regular Martin versus tech Martin that you were talking about yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Listen, I'm in a different computers like that. I'm getting it echo. Oh.